Jack Armstrong here. Shout out to Six Nations and all the indigenous territories across the world. Love you folks. Thank you so much for being such big sports fans. And I tell you what, if you're not watching my good buddies, the Harv and Jace show, you better get the here. Become a member now at harvandjace.com.
It's the Harv and Jace show.
All right. So here we are on the Harv and Jace show. What's up, my friend?
What is going on?
Good to see you. You look great.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great day.
All right.
Spring is upon us.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Like we've been teasing this for a while. And we have a great guest today.
Yes, critically acclaimed.
From Six Nations.
Yes.
Over 100 movie and TV acting credits.
Yeah.
In a career spanning over 3 decades.
Yeah.
Gary Farmer.
Mr. Gary Farmer.
How's it going, man?
Thank you. Yeah, it's good. Scano Swagwego, Nagaso Hyan Twas. Oh.
From Six Nations, you're Cuga and Wolf Clan, right?
Yeah.
That is amazing. And it said that you grew up in Buffalo as a young child. Can you tell us a little bit about growing up, coming from Six Nations and then moving over to Buffalo?
Some of that res life and some of that Buffalo life.
Had both sides of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember my grandparents, my dad's side, Elsie and Bill Farmer, they used to talk about, my grandma used to go pick cherries, I guess, down in Niagara, around the Niagara area where the fruit belt was. And she said everybody used to go down there to work, and, we all were kind of migrant workers. So, I don't know why, but at the time, a lot of the men joined the American Army. And my father was like, the Army Corps of Engineers, where I spent the first 2 years of my life. And so a lot of my family ended up heavy equipment operators, but mostly crane operators, hoisting the steel to the boys.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
We were migrant workers in Niagara Falls. But the interesting story is how, the Tuscaroras is where my dad built that power plant there. And, of course, that was Tuscarora territory there. And you can see, I remember seeing a photograph, a black and white photograph of a young Tuscarora boy holding a sign saying, basically, you're taking our land here and we want you to know that you're doing that, And then here I'm living in Niagara Falls up on 24th Street as a child, and my dad's doing that job. We're friends to Tuscarora. My grandma's from Tuscarora Res there. And here, we were on the good side of that. Like we were getting a job from, and yet there were people suffering over in Tuscarora just 10 miles away. So, the dichotomy of our lives from our careers as people of iron and steel.
Nice.
Sometimes, there was 2 sides to that story, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Graham Greene is also from Six Nations, and Jay Silverheels, who we all know. What got you interested in acting, Gary?
Well, after that life, for me, I really set out to make things better. I grew up in a gang life in a way when we moved to Buffalo after 5th grade, because I spent most of my childhood in Niagara Falls until 5th grade. The whole family was there. My grandparents, aunts and uncles were all there in the falls working. My grandpa dug the hole for Love Canal, by the way.
Wow, that's an amazing history.
That was always, it just goes to show you how far away from, we end up doing these jobs.
Right.
We don't know, acting was a means to, I figured it out really early in the theater, that if you can make people laugh or cry, you can make them think,
Amazing.
And I think I wanted to make life better for our people. And at first I thought being a cop. So that's how I grew up. All the cops in Buffalo, you saw them in action when they pushed that old man down. But, and then Attica broke out when I was in college, studying to be a cop, which was probably the worst prison riot ever.
Right.
Revolt. And I realized that I couldn't make change through becoming part of the system. I had to work outside the system to do the kind of change I thought I should do to make things better for our people. So I always had Haudenosaunee in mind, I guess.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what everyone needs to be doing, right? It's about our future generations, right? Like, what's the point if you're not doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just can't be just about making money or
Got to educate.
yeah, exactly, and give back, right?
Right.
Your sister Michelle runs a talent agency on Six Nations. Do you enjoy coming back to Six Nations? And like, what are some of your like favorite things to do when you come home?
I always go play music with the boys, whoever is out there at the time. Some of the younger set always seem to let me on their stage. But mostly, I follow Pappy Johns. Those guys I've known my whole life. And I used to book the band. That's how we started off. It was called The Secret Agency. And I used to book on reses around Ontario, and we'd all travel up and do a gig in some gymnasium up outside of Sault Ste. Marie or something. Of course, never planning for bad audio in an echoey building.
Exactly. It just bounces back off the walls.
Whatever it was. But that's. I always remember because a lot of them are passing now. Like we just lost Shin Goose, Floyd Westerman's gone. Tom Jackson's getting up there. Who else did I have? Willie Dunn. I had about a whole whack of artists in 1975 at the Six Nations Fair. And I had the work of Arthur Schilling, he was a magnificent oil painter in his day. Of course, his son, Travis and Biwabin have taken over the great work. But I had like all the major, it was very folk
amazing
music scene at the time. And I brought it to the Res. And, we played the main stage and we had a little stage in the tent, and I had the visual art on display in a tent during the fall fair of 75. So I've always had that
amazing
kind of producer mentality. It was quite a lineup. We had Colleen Lukes. She was from Hiawatha Res. I worked with her quite a bit young in my career.
That's amazing. Are there some things that you like to do, like go to a burger barn or anything like that when you come home? Or is
Yogi's
there something
barn
that you have to do?
I try to get around to everybody, being who I am. I go to the burger barn.
Nice.
I always just cash right in. I just move. I don't wait in no line. Right now.
That's right. You
use that celebrity status.
I just dart to the bar.
That's right.
Usually there's no one there unless it's real busy.
Oh, you studied photography and film production in university. What university did you go to?
Yeah, that was part of the transition from being a cop.
Mm-hmm.
And then I picked up an interest last year of high school. There was this photography class. Of course, it was old school photography, darkroom, chemicals, processing the film.
Old school.
It's a much different medium now. But back in the day, I picked up that course with Mr. Pecky. I can remember that guy's name. And that's how the photography got me out of playing football. Because I was really good.
Wow.
You got the size for it. So.
Right.
But I decided at a young age that in order to be good, you had to hurt somebody.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. So I started taking pictures of them, and they stopped asking me to be on the team. But I used to play tackle with the boys in the neighborhood. And when they put me on the line, I thought, man, I'm a running back, man. So the game lost its interest when I was taken away from my childhood. Because I would drag 10, 12 guys down the way, 10 yards.
There you go.
They couldn't bring me down,
Wow.
So I was a strong kid. I always got told,
you don't know your own strength.
Yeah, that was it. You don't know your own.
So from university, was there kind of a culture shock from, I guess from where you were from Six Nations in Buffalo, going to university and having to attend classes and do all this learning? Was there kind of a culture shock there? Like, I know a lot of Indigenous people, that's kind of a hard thing to overcome, you know?
Transition from res life to city life.
Exactly.
Not for me. You know, I was an urban Indian, you
Right.
know. I mean, we were on the res every weekend, I'd say, pretty well. And of course, all summer, usually I'd stay with one set of grandparents. I'd go back and forth from the village up the town line and then back to the village, you know. And then sometimes the grandma and grandpas who lived on the Grand River up on the top of the hill there, those were the memorable moments there, that farm up there.
Awesome.
It's no longer now. I think you still can get a road in there, but I think Tom and Bertie owned that for a while. I'm not sure. But that was my favorite place to go. Was my great-grandfather, James Green, had a farm up there, and rhubarb pie, and Grandma cooked on a real wood stove. And
That's amazing.
those were special memories up there. And they had some animals, and they were pretty good at it. And then that was the best toboggan hill on the res. At the time
amazing.
before I brought the music to Six Nations in the 70s.
Oh, in the 70s. Oh, yeah.
Like that. I mean, I was 23 years old.
Wow.
Producing,
Wow.
stuff like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to raise enough money to bring all those cats in, you know.
That's amazing.
Floyd Westerman, he was a pretty big deal at the time, you know. We called him Grandpa Aim. I spent a life with Floyd. He used to run a sweat lodge out in Malibu.
Oh, wow.
Right across from where Bob Dylan lived. That's where A would come over, and Bob Dylan had a activist, an environmental activist that used to come and join the sweat all the time.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, those are good memories with Floyd. Him and Charlie Hill, those were my guys
The great
in LA
comedian.
when I was a young actor. You go hang out with those guys. We'd go to some
Wow.
Chinese restaurant. And we'd listen to those guys. I'd just laugh for hours with them.
I can imagine.
You know, I had a lot of Native friends all over the country, and especially the artist types, you know, the ones you end up working with.
Right.
Doing this and that with. It's been a great life that way in terms of getting to know the Native community in North America, like even down in Central America some. So that's been good.
That's amazing. Could you talk to us a little bit about the Aboriginal Voices magazine and radio? And
Oh, yeah. I was living out. Geez, I used to say I had my own reservation up by Tamworth, Ontario. Well, that's north of Tyndonega, maybe 30 miles north east a bit.
Okay.
And it's beautiful, you know, just unadulterated. I shopped for water. And, you know, they don't allow boats on those waterways up in there, most of them. And I bought some land on a beautiful, and my wife at the time who wrote Powwow Highway, and I bought some land in there. And I, you know, my nature was to kind of give back. That's what I learned. Is,
Amazing.
you know, you always try to give back to your people. So I thought that what needed to happen, and with all my education regarding the entertainment industry, and realizing that none of it was kind of coming back to us. We weren't getting the stories. We weren't necessarily getting credit for the story, even when it was our stories or our music. And so I thought, I wanted to take all that back. But really, my whole idea was I saw that radio was the most objective medium we had. For instance, you know, at the sound of my voice, you know, you create your own pictures, right? When I tell you those Floyd Westerman and Charlie Hill story, you create the image in your mind. It's not like television, which puts your mind into beta, which makes you just a receiver of information. Hence the brainwash concept of consumerizing. I watched Canada consumerize Northern Ontario, and all those peoples up there within six weeks.
Wow.
The kids were walking around like Fonzie, and I was there in Sioux Lookout rehearsing a play. when I saw that go on, and I realized, oh, they don't need the church no more like they used to kind of colonize the country or
Right.
colonize us. They can use television.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
What a
They
powerful
can consumerize the culture, and then they'll go in there and they can get what they want, whatever they need. And I saw that at work in Canada at a very young age, and I wanted to change that. I thought, okay, somebody's got to be there for the people.
Right.
So I tried to I used the magazine as a stepping stone for the radio. I thought, well, okay, let's get the stories going.
Right.
Let's retell our artistic history first, and then start moving into our, everyday history. Because I realized at a young age that our communities aren't getting the information they need to make decisions that we're facing on a day-to-day basis. We're not getting no electronic media telling our story.
Right.
Telling how the incidence of diabetes is going up. By the way, one of my favorite things to do when I come home is make a film.
Awesome.
And I participated just by chance with Zoe Lee Hopkins' new film
Amazing.
called Run, Woman, Run. And I had the opportunity and I did a cameo on that, along with my first film I've done with my niece, Tasha Fuller. And we watched that cast and crew just last week. And that's the best film I've seen in a long time.
That's amazing.
Congratulations to Zoe Lee Hopkins on her film. It's
amazing.
really special. Yeah. And I can't wait for the community to get a chance to see it. I'm sure it won't be too long. But we're going to bring it out here to the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival, which, by the way, all y'all can submit to that, the SantaFeIndependent.com or SFIFF.com. There's a few ways to get a hold of us, but send your films to us.
Awesome.
And we have a 13th annual coming up October 13th, 17th to 21 this year. So, I just been an advisor, but I've been a big time advisor for the festival here. And see, that's just part of my nature, just making things happen to try and
that's amazing.
Open people's eyes to whatever's going on in the world,
Yeah. Tell us about your early days acting and how different it was when you started out and the way it is now with over 45 different Indigenous nominees at the 2021 Canadian Screen Actors Award.
45 people, 45 Indigenous people just got nominated for the 2021 Canadian Screen Actors Awards. That's pretty darn good, don't you think?
Yeah. From when you started to the scope it is now, yeah. How have things changed?
Yeah. I just saw Shelley Nero's film, which I participated in, the incredible 25th year of Mitzi Bearclaw.
Wow.
It's got American distribution. So that's really good news. Shelley's films have often suffered from lack of distribution, to really get her voice out there, her stories. And so I was happy to participate. We shot it up in Sudbury. It was fun. But we started whatever. Because Aboriginal Voices was a good training ground for a lot of things. And then, of course, I always feel partly responsible for the establishment of, say, CKRZ,
awesome,
as well as the Tyndonega station. I had a program at the CIUT FM in Toronto, U of T. I started a program up in Queen's University here in public radio. So, what happened is that I used to steal time at the CBC building because in the old days, to make good radio doc, you had to cut tape. It was very challenging. You don't do any of that now. So I used to go steal the studio's time, sneak in. The CBC at the time was a little more lax, and you had to go down 2 stories into the basement, and all the editing rooms were down there. And I used to listen to, I'll never forget when Oka happened, 1990. Peter Zowski, he was a lead man there for their morning program. I think they called it Morningside for years. And I'll never forget that day. They had a French journalist and an English journalist, but they had no native journalist, right?
Right?
And they were talking about Oka, right?
Exactly.
and they're like discoursing about us, right? Like I thought, what's up with that? You know, like where are we?
Where's our
and that's what really fueled me,
Right.
to start. You know, not only the magazine but the radio network, and you know, I eventually won the license. I mean, I was batting like almost 1,000 for winning licensing. For like I had Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal,
Amazing.
Vancouver, Calgary. You know, I had 70% by radio of the Canadian population.
It's really kicking some doors open, man.
And the native population, you know. So that was that close, but I knew I couldn't get Canadian funding like everything's done over there.
Right.
You know, because once they get their foot in the door with their money, they're going to undermine everything. And you can see now their environmental plan, what they wanted to exploit, like that mine up in Northern Ontario, the chromite, that makes stainless steel. That's exactly what India needs. That's exactly what, Brazil needs. So they're Canada's counting on 50 to 100 years of economy to keep everything just as it is. And so they're going to exploit, some of those old territories up there that have been pristine for a long time and supply a lot of oxygen for all of us. So it's those kind of decisions that we need to talk about those things among ourselves. And that's why I think it's important that we have, journalism situation happening on the res, both with, now we have a public and a private station, and somebody should be being the ombudsman for the people,
Part of the reason why we started the Harv and Jace show.
Right, just to get it out there.
Well, there you go.
We couldn't see any media representing Six Nations, especially when it came to land back lanes. So we said, you know what, let's get the facts and the truth out there.
Right.
As opposed to all the media being very biased about Indigenous people, trying to strike fear into the communities around us, So that's why we're here, man.
The whole editorial policy should be natural law. But then the internet came and everybody said that's going to take over. But, how many of our people don't have access to the web?
100%.
Right.
Like Six Nations is predicting by 2023 that we'll have some good internet for the res, but like we're one of the more progressive reserves. So how long is it going to take to get there?
That's ridiculous. 2023.
Right? Gary, you have performed over in some legendary films, and I don't know if you remember, but I actually was in a film with you in Vancouver when I was a young guy. It was called Dayglow Warrior. You played a retired aging wrestler, and I was your son. And that was the first time I had to cry on screen, and it was really spooky. But I had a great time working with you. There was an actual we shot right in the P&E. They had the actual WWE ring there for us for the shoot. It was incredible. Do you remember that?
Oh my God, I was just waiting to hear that story. I'll never forget because I distinctly remember you being 8 years old,
right?
And of course, our longtime friend Michelle Thrush, was playing your mom, and she was playing sister to me. But I'll never forget, I was going off to do another film called The Dark Wind. So it was right around Oka because it was 1990.
Exactly.
And also Renee Highway passed that year. So it was very memorable to me because he was a dear friend. But the dancer, he was a modern dancer for Toronto Dance Theatre. But I remember you wanting to come with me,
right?
Because we were going to Tuba City, Arizona, to shoot that film, and that's all you wanted as an 8-year-old child was to tag along with me and go do the next movie. Yeah, I certainly do remember that, Jason.
Oh, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been on film like so huge, like smoke signals that are forever a part of the fabric of Indigenous people, and like Powwow Highway, like you said. Yeah. What's that experience like working for an Indigenous production with Indigenous actors compared to like the more mainstream movies that you're appearing in?
It's great. I mean, more and more. Like I just finished just a run of things. Been busier than cat covering these days.
Great.
I guess. if you live long enough, there's a payoff. You know, that's the trick. But yeah, most of the work I've done this year on Native writer has been a part of the script.
Amazing.
I'm just going off to do a series. I'm in 4 episodes. I'm not sure how many they're making, but it's Reservation Dogs.
Oh, right on.
And that's total,
That's huge. Yeah. That's going to be on FX, I think.
At the top, you know. I mean, Jojo Rabbit guy.
Exactly.
Is the executive producer. And
wow.
I don't know if you've ever witnessed, if you watched a film of his called Boy. I don't know if you guys have seen Taika's film called Boy. I think it's from 2000. I think it's like a 2011. And it's kind of a version of that film, only set in Oklahoma Indians.
Crazy, eh?
With Sterling Harjo, who's been a longtime filmmaker, exclusively in Oklahoma. He kind of makes all his movies, around Oklahoma.
That's great.
And he only used to cast for Indians from Oklahoma, but because of his success, he's broadening his reach a bit more. So there's going to be young actress out of Ganawagi. Devry Jacobs. She's killing it right now, right? As a young actress. Yeah, she's killing it. So she's in this series as well as one of the young leads. So I'm just happy. I'm going to play a funny character opposite to what I'm playing for Resident Alien. I play this kind of crazy uncle for Reservation Dogs down there. Yeah. We're just all waiting for a start date right now. We'll be down there in a couple of weeks.
Amazing.
But of course, all the gangs there, Tantu and Lily Gladstone and Janae Collins are all playing the leads in, Scorsese's Killing of the Moon.
Right, with the Leo DiCaprio and them, right? That's going to be huge.
Yeah, with all that gang. So they're all in Tulsa too. So I'm hoping we're all in the same hotel.
Right.
Because I worked with Robert around 2001, Robert Deniro.
Wow. The score.
And, I haven't seen him since, of course. We don't hang out or nothing. But he was a fun guy to work with. He got a great sense of humor. You know, he's funny. Yeah.
I seen you in Blood Quantum with Devry Jacobs, and you died quite epic, death scene.
I got your head chopped.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Well, it wasn't as good as planned, but that stuff's challenging. I had a thing that was supposed to pump out the blood, so when my head went off.
Oh wow! Right?
But that didn't work that day, I guess. They had this one on that movie. They had these guys called the Blood Brothers, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a gang of them, because they supplied all the blood. They literally had a 3-ton or 3/4 ton truck with those big plastic water containers full of blood. Like their blood was squirting everywhere for that film. That was pretty funny, but I don't know about some genre films are fun, I guess. That's why I love Dead Man so much, because it was like a reversal of a genre, like the Western.
Was that with Johnny Depp?
We did the real kind of settling of the West,
right?
Kind of the devastation toward the Native community, that they did, and killing the buffalo, and so that was like a classic.
Amazing.
Telling that film from our point of view as much as. And still keeping your stars somewhat happy.
Exactly. This is also really cool. I'm a musician, and Harv has dabbled in music as well with True Res Crew. You were a part, like you were around when True Res Crew was rocking and rolling. But you started your own band.
That track you guys did with Lucy and Derek. That's my favorite track ever.
Yeah, lucky one.
I'm still pushing that track and playing. I should send that track to our producer for Resident Alien.
Right.
I bet you he'll pick up on that track.
That's an amazing
song.
That,
guys. You should send that track to me, and I'll forward that on to.
Yeah, we definitely can get that.
Our executive. Yeah.
But you started.
I love that track and a lot of the other stuff. I remember you guys playing on the main stage there in Nathan Phillips Square.
Yeah, that was a while back.
We did some really nice shows. I remember a lot of those shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You started a band called Gary Farmer and the Troublemakers. Tell us about
right.
that. You just obviously love creating and love performing, and music is just another
Yeah.
extension of that, right?
Blues.
Oh, yeah.
And you play harmonica.
I booked a gig in Santa Fe during Indian Market, which was, I'd be here every year anyway, because those were the best days, the 80s and 90s, coming to Indian Market. So after I came here making Powwow Highway, I've never really kind of left. You're amidst the Pueblo territory, and honor to those whose land I've lived on for many years. So, it's a special place for me. And of course, it's fascinating because it's one of 3 sites from, Spanish colonization. We got Quebec City for French and Jamestown for English. All those points of colonization. The history here is kind of fascinating and all that. So I got a gig here in Santa Fe at the Center for Contemporary Art, and then I booked a couple of other gigs.
Nice.
But I had to, meanwhile I was building a band, and I was living out in Los Angeles, I guess, at the time. And, whenever I live in these big cities, there's Indians all around.
Right.
There's the people there. But I used to go visit James Luna, who's a performance artist. He's passed now. In fact, I've written a song about him.
Wow.
I wish I could play for you right now. Derek and I versed it.
Awesome.
But, I'd go see him. And he had a band. He'd do with some of his shows. He went around the world doing performance arts. Very powerful stuff too. A lot of it. And so I picked up with some players from there, and then I met this girl named what the heck, Neon Napalm.
Wow, what a
she's
name!
A Cherokee girl.
Deadly.
Cherokee girl. And then I had James's guitar player. We picked up another rhythm player from the community of Rincon. They got a big casino down there. And we used to hang way up top of Rincon. There's another res up there called, oh my God, how can I forget the name? But I spent a lot of time up there with those mountain Indians up there. They were just some of my best memories. But we had a drummer from there, and then we came to Albuquerque first, and we rehearsed there. We played the Indian Center, and then I picked up another guitar player, a guy named Roger Colty. He's quite a character. He kind of was a part of the Mud Ponies originally, which toured Europe back in the day.
Right.
But
he was just one of those guitar players that could never stop.
Slanging.
He never gave up.
Amazing.
And but he eventually moved on. But I shaped the band from them. Of course, all the California Indians went home, and I stayed in Santa Fe and opened an art gallery to my dismay. That's that was a tough thing to do, and carried on with the band from that, and started recording, and band members have changed, and then eventually, some great players come along.
Derek Miller toured with you,
Williams,
right?
Yeah, Derek.
Yeah, drummer from Chicago. He was great. And then I use Shakti Hayes on bass a lot.
Yep, Shakti.
And then Derek comes in on guitar.
That's awesome.
I have a great keyboard player here. So I got a great band. I probably got about 20 players.
That's amazing. Wow.
That's an ensemble.
That's what you got to do there. And then I toured for 10 solid years now. We'd go out on 2 months.
Wow. That's
back
awesome.
when you could book.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd be, I had to do 6 to 8 shows a week to make it work.
Right.
Have at least one good paying gig, and just subsist to get to the next good paying gig. And as time went on, the gigs got better and better and better.
Definitely.
And then my other career started to kick off again. So, I'd take a break.
Speaking of that,
write some songs.
Yeah. Speaking of your other career, you said you're starring in Resident Alien now as Dan 12 Trees
on Sci-Fi Network.
On Sci-Fi Network. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was a wonder. I was going off to shoot this crazy film in Boulder that hasn't come out yet, Cowboys on a Zebra, which I love. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was a really interesting film. I worked with some really interesting actors in that film, and it'll be out sometime. I'll let you guys know. But yeah, I had to do an audition on the way. I think we did it in Alamosa, Colorado, and I had to meet the executives on Zoom. This is just prior to the, everything
different.
falling out. And that fall, before it all happened. No, it was a year before, I guess. So I did the audition, and, I've been hitting good. I don't know what the auditions, my girlfriend's really good with me to help.
Right.
She's
That
a good
support
reader.
helps.
And, I've just been lucky with the auditions on tape. They're all on tape now. I'm much better on tape than I am
And in person, yeah. That's a little tense sometimes.
So I've been scoring. And so I scored this role, and I went up there. We shot it in Vancouver.
Beautiful.
And I think I was supposed to do 5 episodes. I ended up doing 6 out of 10.
Yay.
And we had a good time. It's a fun cast. It's a really fun cast. I just did one of the the stars of the show. She plays the barmaid. She has a podcast on Star Trek, The Next Generation. And so you watch an episode of Star Trek, and in this case, it was the whatever Star Trek is. They're kicking the Indians off the planet again, right?
Exactly.
And I forgot that about that episode, and I had a lot of old friends in it, including Tom Jackson, who also came to the res and had a big dark story about that. But of course, I ended up working with him on Dry Lips Out of Moved to Kapuskasing for a while, and so I have a lot of fun stories about Tom Jackson. He lived in our actor house in Toronto for a while, but it was about 6 actors lived together in this huge house. It's the only way you could live kind of properly, share a residence. And there was rooms all over, and Graham lived there with us, and Mike Copeman, John Blackwood, Jenny Dean, Vicky Vanderpool. It was a real gang, fun gang. And Tom and his girlfriend lived there for quite a while. So we had a lot of fun stories about each other after that.
What a way, like the different gang from when you were growing up in Niagara Falls to that gang that you just mentioned right there. Like, you come a long way, Gary. That's got to feel pretty darn good.
From wild to mild, I guess.
Because when I started acting, I'm like the original bouncer at the Silver Dollar Hotel in
Toronto.
Wow.
Must have been 77, 78, 79.
Oh, wow.
And, I worked with one fella who I used to try to get to there was a lot of, it's the first time I really met Anishinaabes. I mean, I grew up in Western New York and on the res. And, even though Mississauga is right next door, you never thought of them as Anishinaabes. They were different Anishinaabe than the ones in Toronto. Or the Crees, or the Nova Scotia Indians and the New Brunswick Indians, and all those tribes. It's the first time for me, and of course I remember AIM coming through, trying to recruit. There was a Canadian AIM at the time trying to recruit through there, but in the day in Toronto there was no Indian center system yet.
Right.
So the Silver Dollar Hotel. If you came from the north or wherever you came, east or west, Manitoba, you came to the city. You came there to get work or find your people. There. Everybody came to the Silver Dollar Hotel, and I was the bouncer trying to save everyone's life from this Anishinaabe guy who used to come and try to. he loved fisticuffs. If you started trouble, he'd just come there and make sure it all got wiped out. And I used to try to get there to say, man, you guys better relax before this guy comes, he's gonna. And so that was my role, was to prevent, violence from really happening. And was an interesting time. Then I drove a cab during the day.
Right.
And that was a great gig because you got cash. I could go in when I wanted. And then I went to night school for photography and film production.
Wow. So you kept yourself
the first
busy.
gig I got was the acting gig during the, well, I got a gig before that, but I played the 76 Olympics. And then by that time, we did a prison tour leading up to Montreal to do the Olympics. And we played prisons.
That's amazing.
And I played to that guy in prison. He eventually killed someone.
Holy moly.
And charged with manslaughter, 10 years. And we played a play, like a kind of a prison piece. It was about the Baytuk getting wiped out. They were chased down in Newfoundland. That's how they got rid of their Indians. They just kind of killed them. Like, well, they tried to kill all of us, but that was quite the story. And it was kind of a hardcore piece, but it was a bit of a comedy too. And but I remember playing to that fella I worked with in the Silver Dollar Hotel. But, Daniel David Moses wrote one play about the Silver Dollar.
Yeah.
I can't think of the title. We should produce Daniel's plays in his honor.
Right. You're right. He wrote so many great things. Yeah, Daniel David Moses.
He did. I always wanted to direct them too.
Right. I was going to ask you that. Have you ever decided to be like the old and get into directing and doing all that kind of stuff?
Call some shots.
Transitioning.
Well, I did, but obviously I was busy because I had bigger things too. Like,
right.
I'll never forget when that movie Black Robe came out. I really despised that movie. Wow. And it stayed top of the box office in Canada. All my friends are in it, including Augie. Right. Tantu. I auditioned for the gig. I didn't, but I never got none of the starving Indian gigs because I was too chubby. Right? So I just got to play that, and I'm thankful for that. After that film came out, I'll never forget going to see it, and there was a bunch of little Catholic girls sitting in front of me in Toronto, and when them bad Indians kind of start doing, the hitting everybody on the butt on the Gatlin line, and I'll never forget the Catholic girls' response.
Oh, jeez.
They're just so dismissive of us and they portrayed us as Haudenosaunee as ruthless. And kind of
very savage.
They've done that kind of historically for a long time. And I'll never forget the dear Michael Dockstader telling a story once about, do you know why the Huron got, why we went up there and took them out? Because apparently the Huron were in 4 different nations too.
Definitely.
Tribal, confederacy, much like ours. Like a lot of, like the Three Fires.
Right.
Like
the Lakotas.
Wadawa. And, so the peace was widespread at contact, That's why they always say we're all warring with each other. But that when the English first came here, the thing they wanted was the beaver, and they traded rum for it.
Yep.
All along that northern Algonquin entrance of the St. Lawrence River. And that was the first effect of alcohol on the people.
Right.
And they came to us and said, geez, we got a problem up there. And they said, well, get out of there. Everyone clear out and we'll go in there and just wipe it out. Now, that was the idea. That was how we knew to take care of the peace. Was, okay, there's some issues here, so we'll go try to clean that out. But no one's ever told that story in Canadian history like that. It's always, so they've never really allowed because there's the whole thing, movie making and films and TV, it's all about conflict.
Right.
It's from the Russian Revolution. That's how old. Now you go in there and say, any screenwriter and say, hey, let's make a film where it's about peace. Oh, no, we can't do that. It's all about conflict. And I never thought that we had our just desserts in Canada for, let's acknowledge that conflict we had, of course,
right.
With the French and the English.
We had an amazing chat with you, Gary, man. Wow.
Yeah.
We learned so much. Got so much information, and we're so excited that you would take the time to sit with us because we had a little bit of technical difficulties
issues
at the start. So we're so happy that you were patient with us. taking the time for us. We're so excited at what's happening in your career. It seems like you're blowing up too again, back in acting, and we're so looking forward to
hitting the mainstream back on sci-fi.
Yeah, man, we're really excited for you, and we want to thank you so much for joining the Harv and Jace show, and we want to invite you to come back down the road.
And I was asked to ask you a famous quote from one of your movies. Who was your favorite Indian?
My mom.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. And she was a great lady. I actually got to meet her.
Her first anniversary of her death.
Yes.
And one of her proudest moments was meeting the Queen, right? Like meeting the Queen was one of her proudest moments in her career as a politician.
Right.
And just God bless her that her one anniversary, her first anniversary of her death falls on the Queen's birthday.
Oh, wow.
I just find that
how ironic.
Perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
The numbers.
Shirley Farmer, right?
Yeah, Shirley Garnet Farmer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's an awesome segue to end this, man.
Yeah.
It was so nice to hang out with you, Gary. Let's do it again.
Yeah, Nyawa.
You bet.
Thanks, man.
It's the Harv and Jace show.